Welcome everyone to the IVP Student Government Debates hosted by the Baylor Laureate. Let's please go around and have all the candidates introduce themselves. For starters, I'm Tatum Mitchell, opinion editor at the Baylor Laureate, and I will be monitoring this debate. Mackenzie, would you like to start?
Yeah, of course. So thank you, Tatum, for hosting us. We are very excited to be here and honored to be considered for the Laureate endorsement. My name is Mackenzie Arata. I am obviously running to be the next internal vice president. I'm from Tropical, Texas. I am a junior, currently double majoring in political science and Spanish with minors in corporate communication, legal reasoning analysis, and history on the pre-law track. I have served as a senator for the past 2 years. This current year, I am serving as a junior senator and a member of the Senate Executive Council as the Academic Affairs Committee Chair, and I'm excited about the opportunity to potentially serve as a greater role in this upcoming legislative session.
Thank you, Aksa.
Hi. So first of all, thank you so much, Mitchell, for hosting us. And I am Aksa Naknoja. I am a junior currently studying international studies on the pre-law track. I'm also involved in the Baylor Interdisciplinary Course, so the BIC. And I'm just so excited for the opportunity to serve as internal vice president. I'm so excited that I get to be against an awesome opponent, Mackenzie. And yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Aksa, will you tell me a little bit about why you decided to run for IVP?
Yeah, so, okay. Last year, I had actually made the switch from bio pre-med to international studies pre-med, and I had put so much time into just a lot of pre-health things, and I was kind of looking to venture out and kind of seek different opportunities here at Baylor. And one of those things that called me was Senate. And it was just an opportunity for me to get involved in a very different way. I actually had no idea what Senate did or what kind of role it had at Baylor. So when I joined, I got to learn a lot more. And then with that being said, as a junior senator, I kind of learned that there was this big gap that I was seeing between the student body and just Senate itself. Not a lot of people know what Senate does, including me. When I had first joined Senate, even though I was campaigning and running, I actually had no idea what it did. And so I had all of these ideas, being a junior senator, that were coming into my mind. And instead of wanting the next IVP to feel as passionate about my own ideas, I decided to just take the leap of faith and put myself in that position to where I can see my own ideas come into fruition and I can be really passionate about those ideas.
Mackenzie?
Yeah, so I decided to run for IVP because I've loved my time in Student Senate and just desire to serve in a greater capacity. When I was running for Senate sophomore year or going into sophomore year, I did not know the impact it would have on my life. And I've just seen the Lord move so greatly through my time in Senate. It has altered my career goals. It has given me such deep community and has enabled me to serve the student body and just represent Baylor students in a greater capacity than I knew was possible. So kind of going through those three things and reasons why I decided to run. So whenever I joined sophomore year, I fell in love with the legislative body, loved the legislative work, getting to represent students and write legislation. And that experience pushed me to apply for and ended up interning on Capitol Hill last summer, representing Texas offices, working for a senator and then a congressman. And coming back, I just have been even more involved. The senators are some of my best friends and biggest encouragers. And I want to be that person for the next group of senators. I have seen campaigning begin today for senators and just how passionate already these candidates are. So just wanting to serve that next group. And then also have just loved getting to represent students. I have found that if you want to make change, like one of the best ways to do it is be involved and go as a senator and you get to write legislation. I've had some awesome opportunities to make change. And so I just want to continue. I'm just so passionate about Senate, the legislative body, and the community and representation that I found being a senator, and I just wanted to take that next step and serve my student body even better as the IVP.
Awesome. Our next question is, what have you done so far to impact the Baylor community? Aksa, would you like to start us off?
Yes. So one of the biggest things that I have done a part of being a part of the Baylor community that it's been a big part of my life here at Baylor is I am a Baylor tour guide. And that has been super impactful for me because not only do I share the love of Baylor that I have, but I get to see the past, present, and the future every single day when I work. I get to talk to students about why I love Baylor. And the more I talk to students about why they should choose Baylor, I learn that one thing that Baylor has when you take away the academics and the athletics is that we have a community, and that's just been so impactful for me. And so I always want to give back into that community. And so I always want to share that love of Baylor. So being a Baylor tour guide has been extremely fruitful at my time. And then along with that, I've also put myself out there with research. I've done HPV research. This past summer I just started, and I started doing it with a couple of big students, and it was super fun. And again, when I was at a point where I didn't really know if pre-med was for me or if I wanted to be pre-law, and just to see the type of research that we can do here at Baylor and being an R1 university. That's the type of impact I would like others to have in this, the student body to have here at Baylor. And I feel like that's the impact that I have so far on the Baylor community.
What do you think the role of student government is at Baylor currently, and what do you think it should be in the future, if anything different? Mackenzie, do you want to start?
Yeah, of course. So I think currently, we start every week saying our mission statement to represent the student body with respect to our Christian commitment and the ideals of Baylor University through shared governance as we seek to enrich the quality of student life. And I think that is all encompassing about what student government is. Right now, I would say kind of in that, our biggest role is allocating funds. So we have the Student Government Allocation Fund, and our biggest proponent of StuGov and why people on campus, I would say, know us a lot is because we give money to student events, so all university events. And I think that's our biggest role. Obviously, we represent the student body and we look for things in places where there's need and we write legislation to fix it. But I would say, kind of moving on to the second part of the question, what I think it should be. I've seen some disparities in our mission is to enrich the quality of student life as a whole. And we do that really well through funding. But I think there's so much room for opportunity through things like Senate resolutions and Senate improvements, which are two different types of legislation. The first one is recommendations. The second one allocates funding for projects. And I would just like to see in the future us use those things more to represent different groups and actually search more for where the need is so we can represent the student body even to a more full extent.
Aksa?
Yeah, so the current role of student government right now is, if I'm being honest, we do a lot of stuff that goes very much unseen. We do fund a lot of organizations and we do come out with bills. Right now, I'm currently working on a bill to get new outlets at the sub, which me and two other senators have been super passionate about. And there's little things like that that student government does, and it is impactful. But to be quite frank with you, we have let the student body down. Like I said, not a lot of students know what Senate itself does. And to move on to that second part of that question, and something that I'm super passionate about in my platform is what student government could be. I'm excited as my role as internal vice president. I want to put student back into student government. Right now, student government is, yes, student run, but there's really no students involved in the process with bills or anything of that sort. So I actually want to create a little forum where students can, while they're walking to class, or if they think of something, they can actually submit a form to me as internal vice president, and I can receive that form and I can look at it and see if it's a feasible thing that student government itself can do, and have them be paired with a senator that is also going to be passionate about that bill. And I know that this is a very little thing to say. It's just opening up a forum, getting them something like a Google Doc that they can submit ideas to. But it's a little step to making big change and finally getting students to be involved in making change at Baylor. We have 52 amazing senators, and although we have amazing ideas, imagine how many better ideas we can have if we had the entire student body present and helping us create those ideas. So I'm excited for ideas like this to open up a forum where I can connect senators with students and act as a middleman and really encourage both of them to work on the bill.
Thank you. I know, Aksa, you kind of touched on this just now, but how will you be accessible to students raising concerns about the work that student government does? Can y'all both elaborate on that a little bit? Mackenzie, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start off. So kind of similarly to what Ox is mentioning, my platform is Move with Mackenzie, where each of the letters has something different. So it's the O specifically, I think, is important for this one. I'll touch on the rest, I think, in a later question. But the O stands for open communication. Ox has touched on this greatly, but something that we are seeing is a need for that, because a lot of the changes we're making and when we realize there's a need is based on anecdotal or word of mouth stories. But my goal with that is to create mechanisms to formalize the feedback from the student body. So I think also what's really cool about the role of the IVP is we can have these ideas and we'd have a team alongside us to formalize it. So I've had different ideas of different ways we could do it, whether it be Google Forms or shared forums kind of thing. But if I was selected as the IVP, I would be able to work with a team to see how we could best do that to meet our needs as a university. But I think something also with being accessible to the students' concerns is as the internal vice president, you have 12 office hours a week. And so I would just be available in my office to have those conversations with students, to invite people down. I would market that too and spread the word so people would know that that's an option. But I would just be really open for feedback. I think the best way we can continue improving is through feedback and getting more students engaged in these conversations. So that is something I would utilize is my office hours if I were selected as IVP to become more accessible.
Aksa?
Yeah, so Mackenzie has touched on it a lot already. We are actually required to have office hours. And so those 12 hours a week, I want to be accessible. Again, I don't want to take a passive role. I want to be this active participant in making change. And if I'm going to be honest, not a lot of people are going to utilize the office hours. They're not going to feel welcomed and they're not going to really have ideas. And the one thing that I really, really want to do, again, is I want students to be involved in the process. I want senators to seek out other students and ask them what they've seen at Baylor that could be improved. Again, there is also a disparity amongst majors. So we have lots of political science majors and business majors, but I really want to reach out to different majors and different schools and programs and see what they are lacking. And that's how I want to be accessible. I want to show them that I am available for them. And that first step usually is me stepping out and communicating with them about anything that they need. And I think that first step can allow others to know that I am accessible.
Awesome. Mackenzie, can you touch a little bit on how you're going to impact the Baylor community, or how have you? I'm sorry, I skipped over you earlier, I think.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, so I would love to talk on that a little bit. I have a multidimensional answer, both how I've impacted Baylor's community through StuGov and outside of StuGov. So first, how I've impacted Baylor's community through StuGov. I've had the opportunity to be involved in writing and authoring multiple bills. So for example, last week I passed an SI along with Senator Single, and that's a Senate improvement bill, which is funding $40,000 towards the creation of an esports arena on campus. So that's one example of how I've impacted and how we are getting to create a space for fellowship and community for a group who doesn't already have that on campus. As well, I've also authored multiple Senate allocations. So I've helped fund important Baylor all university events that has brought the community together. Things like Howdy, Big Man on Campus, Threads, and Alexander Hamilton Society speaker event, and more. And it's been awesome to see that, as well as through other legislation. I've gotten to help the ROTC students who felt there was a disparity between how they were getting their scholarships and just the advisors not necessarily knowing the full extent of how those forms were filled out. And then also, I got to write an SS to thank the Spanish department for successful second Jornada Científica Estudiantil, which is a really special way to be able to combine my passion for Spanish and also impact the university through an awesome conference and getting to share that and appreciate that. And then also, Outside of student government, I think I've impacted Baylor's community through my work being involved in organizations like Student Foundation and Baylor Ambassadors and a few others. But through Baylor Ambassadors, we've had the opportunity to lobby both in Washington, D.C. and in Austin on behalf of the student body. So we've gotten to lobby for things like research funding, mental health, and college affordability. And those things are all really important to Baylor students. So I've gotten to help impact by helping legislators to see how important that is for the university. And then also with Student Foundation, Alexa mentioned this too with being a tour guide, but getting to serve Baylor's past, present, and future is the mission of Student Foundation, and being on student recruitment committee. I've gotten to go to college fairs, have lunch with prospective students, and then also work things like Marathon and All University Thanksgiving, and just share the love for Baylor, share my passion for the university, and just get to encourage students to be more involved or to come to Baylor. And I think those ways of being involved in different organizations, both student government and others, I've gotten to see much impact through Baylor's community. And I've just been blessed by how the Lord has enabled me to serve in different roles that have helped me impact Baylor's community.
Thank you. Again, I'm sorry I skipped over you on that question. Aksa, do you want to start with our next question? What are your plans to address diversity and racism on campus?
Yeah, so this is a heavy hitting question, and I was actually really excited to see this on the list of questions that were going to be asked. The first thing I really want to say is that issues on diversity and race, there's never going to be a perfect solution ever. But we can always have active participants trying to beat prejudice that already exists on campus and just every day in our world. I actually went to the statue revealing today, and it was really impactful for me. Reverend Robert Gilbert and Barbara Walker, they were one of the very first people to graduate as African Americans at Baylor University. And the person who made the statues, he, in a speech, said something. He said, "It is not going to be easy to be a trailblazer, and it is not going to be easy to be the first, but it is going to be impactful." And I am just proud of myself for stepping out and campaigning, being one of the first South Asians to do it. I think it opens up the table for other South Asians to come and feel welcome to do it, and also other minorities. But along with that, race is a form of diversity, but that's not the only type of diversity there is to exist. We can talk about diversity in ways such as religion, thoughts, majors, programs, where you're coming from, culture, as well as even sexuality that may have been prejudiced against here at Baylor. Although I cannot say that I can solve every single racial prejudices or diversity problems here at Baylor, I can be an active participant in kind of breaking down the ignorance here at Baylor. One of those ways is whenever we have a bill, so we do have a DEI committee, which means diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to give them a greater role, a supervisory role even, making sure that all bills that student government comes out with are upholding our commitment, our Christian mission as well. Again, I wish that I could say I have plans to just eradicate racism and diversity issues, but what I do plan to do is be a voice for people who haven't had a voice before. I want others to feel open to come talk to me about anything. And so therefore, although there's nothing concrete that I can say, I do hope that personally with our DEI committee, they can start taking on a greater role and being active participants here at Baylor on beating racism and diversity issues.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
Yeah, so I think the first step in addressing issues of racism and diversity on campus is engaging in conversations. So every year we have Senate training, which includes diversity training. And I think expanding that, instead of just having a 1-day, 1-hour-long session, incorporating it into more that we do. So also mentioned we have DEI committee. We also have 5 other standing committees. So working with the committee chairs to just continue training and just engaging in the conversations in language choice. I think with racism, for example, there's so many ways that it is embraced that we don't necessarily see. So just starting conversation, hearing people's experiences to help us kind of break down our ignorance there. And then also, as the internal vice president, you have the power to create ad hoc committees. And that's something I would use in order to help improve diversity on campus. And also mention this, I think we all know it, but there's so many different types of diversity that we can focus on. So just creating a diversity ad hoc where people from all the different standing committees on Senate, so any senator who's interested, if passed by the Senate, could come together and work to market Senate and work to be liaisons with different organizations on campus and just work to actively see how we can improve diversity both within Senate and then just embracing the different diversity on campus. Something even that we've done to improve diversity, hopefully in the future, is how I mentioned the SI for esports, and admissions was on board with this project because they think it will help attract a different kind of student to Baylor. And so it's things like that, being innovative, creative, seeing how we can work towards improving diversity, no matter the type, and then just also engaging in those conversations, increasing training. And I would hope to create an ad hoc that could help focus solely on improving diversity.
Thank you. How will you help Baylor more positively impact the Waco community? Aksa, would you like to start?
Yeah, so my answer for this one is short and simple. We have 52 different senators and also 3 SBOs who can all work together. We all come from different parts, walks of life, and also we just actively participate in different parts of the Waco community. What I hope to do with how we can impact the Baylor community is I want to work with the student body president and the external vice president, because it's more so their role to reach out and seek how to be more fruitful in the Waco community. So I want to work with them, and I want our senators to feel encouraged to bring their Waco community that they are a part of and blend it into the Baylor community. We have so many things that I have seen. We bring in lots of speakers, and if they want to bring in a speaker, anything like that, during one of our Senate meetings, I would love for that as internal vice president. What I really want to see is how senators just kind of spread their wings into the Waco community, and I want them to be able to bring that into Senate as well.
Mackenzie?
Yeah, of course. So I would say for me, similarly, I would also work closely with the external vice president. That is a big part of their role, is connecting Baylor and the Waco community. But also, I think a big part of that is taking initiative on my own. How I can like personally be involved in that. I have been involved in multiple organizations that have put me in Waco community doing community service. I volunteered with Steppin' Out. I volunteered with Greater Waco Legal Services, Mission Waco, Caritas. I'm involved in Harris Creek Baptist Church. So just all of these different things, even from my own Baylor experience, are ways that I can help the Baylor community become more involved in the Waco community. And I've just seen such positive impact even from my own volunteering. And it's so fruitful on both sides of getting to serve those people who don't always like have the same resources as us. And then also just like getting that experience of being out in the Waco community is honestly kind of a life-changing experience of we're surrounded in the Baylor bubble a lot. And that's something I personally learned getting to volunteer. And so just encouraging senators to come alongside me, taking the initiative to take groups out when I go, and just doing things like that to encourage people to get more involved. And then also working with different service-based organizations and the EVP and the SBP, and seeing how we can all collectively work to encourage Baylor students to get more into the Waco community.
Thank you. Aksa, do you want to start with what other plans you might have for your time in office?
Yes. So I kind of already touched on kind of my plans as my role as internal vice president. One of the biggest things that I was thinking about when I was thinking of my campaign and my platform was 2 things. I want it to be, 1, achievable, and Second, accessible. I've already talked about how I want to create a Google form or any type of submission doc that students can access, whether it is through our Baylor Student Government Instagram or it's through our website. I want it to be accessible and achievable. Again, I know that students, it's not their long life goal to be thinking about all these things that they can submit into this form, but I want it to be something that if they are walking to class and the sprinklers are spraying at their face and they want that fixed, then they can quickly go onto our website, submit something, and I can tell them, hey, we have someone on this. Thank you so much for reaching out about this. This is awesome. Again, achievable and accessible. But along with that, I want Senate to become Senate again as a whole. So we have 7 different committees, and we all kind of break apart into groups, and that kind of happens early as we enter into Senate. And in those committees, we get really close to each other, which is great. But then we also don't have a lot of time to kind of seek out other relationships with other committees. And one of the things I kind of want to do is implement a point system. So fun fact, senators also have a point system. We just have to get points, to be in good standing. I want to implement a point system that's a little bit more holistic. I want a requirement to be that student senators actually have to visit, whether it's once a month or once a semester, what is more again accessible to them, that they visit another committee and see what is going on. Again, that gives them the opportunity to get really close with other senators. And also what I want to do again is, like I said, I have just entered into the Senate world just this past year. And I, to be quite frank, didn't know what was happening for half a semester. I was lost in the verbiage that was being used. It took me a long time to kind of pick that up and feel really confident in myself to get up and speak. And for new senators, that's a very difficult thing. One of the biggest things that I'm super excited about is when I become internal vice president, I want to implement a mock Senate meeting. Again, this is mostly because there is a difference between kind of getting the instructions for how Senate works versus actually practicing it. And so this would encourage senators to actually get up, stand up without having the stress of it being an actual bill. And I want this to be implemented, and this can be implemented as my time as internal vice president. Again, I wanted things to be accessible and achievable. And these are ideas that I'm super happy about. And these are things that for the next internal vice president and the next internal vice president, they can also pick up these ideas and leave off from where I have left it. And it just gives senators a voice to feel comfortable speaking up. So yeah, I'm super excited for these ideas, and yeah.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this earlier, but my platform is Move with Mackenzie, where each letter means something different and are one of my platform points. M, manage transitions. O, open communication. V, value meaningful debate. And E, equip senators. So kind of touching on each of those represents a more encompassing plan of what my plans are for my potential time in office. So starting with managing transitions. Each year, 52 new senators and a new IVP is elected. I think that just lends itself to chaos. And SEC, so Senate Executive Council, is chosen in the summer. And with that, the previous SEC members may have already been graduated. So this year, I believe there's one returning member of SEC. So the other 5 of us came in and didn't really know what to do. We didn't know where to start. So even from SEC, stepping into that leadership role, it was kind of hard to figure out. And then with that, it's hard for the new senators to figure out. And with leadership kind of also figuring it out, there's just so many things of the transition that could be managed. So something I would initiate if I were to be selected as the internal vice president is starting early, seeing what this current SEC can journal down and help to pass down, and then starting early with the new senators and with the new SEC of creating binders or some different mechanism to where we can solidify things to pass down in the future, where each next generation can add on to it, things that they find are helpful. And then that would just help manage the transitions and make Senate start off easier, because there's such a learning curve to it. So any way we can help manage that would be really impactful. And then opening communication, I touched on earlier, but just creating a formalized mechanism to where we can receive feedback from the student body. Obviously, right now, the whole student body is not represented in Senate, whether it's because of their major or a group that they're involved in, but just wanting to promote different ways that feedback can be established, and not just from word of mouth from senators' friends and friends of friends. So just creating a formalized mechanism for that is opening communication with the student body and would just help us fulfill our duty even greater. And the value meaningful debate is my next point. So right now, during each time a bill is presented, senators stand up and they give a pro or a con. That is the debate period. And right now, which this last week is really cool to see, but up until last week, it's the same few people who talk. The debates aren't super lengthy, and a lot of the senators will go most of the year without saying anything in debate. And so I want to just inspire a culture from the beginning where everybody's values and perspectives are valued, and we want to hear that. And so just encouraging senators to stand up and say their pro, say their con without fear of judgment, and knowing that they were elected for a reason and that they should share their point of view, I just think is such an important thing that needs to happen in Senate from day one. And so if I were elected as internal vice president, that is something I would help do, is inspire this community where everyone knows they can speak and that their value is in what they say. Like they are able to say whatever their view is and that it's valued. And then also my last point, equipping senators. So kind of how we mentioned earlier, there's such a learning curve with Senate and people don't really know what to do at the very beginning. So I would want to kind of start and have more trainings at the beginning, even if that looked like not having a formal Senate for a few weeks and having training sessions. I think right now senators don't really know the steps of, no matter what type of bill they're writing or the research process, a lot of senators don't know how to approach that. So finding a way from the very beginning to teach them how to be equipped. They will know how to answer the questions they need to ask. They will know what questions to ask, and they will know like kind of the mindset of going into these interviews and different meetings with a listening posture. And all of this would help the senators be equipped on bill writing. I think also our current finance chair did an awesome job making an SCAF training packet. So that's our student government allocation fund, which is when we're allocating money through a Senate allocation. So just making more trainings like that, for example, over the summer, and teaching these students, that the new senators, at the very beginning, so they know the proper steps for writing each bill. But yeah, Move with Mackenzie is my platform, and that would be my plan for my potential time in office.
Awesome, thank you. So finishing up, what makes you the best candidate for the position you're running for? Aksa, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I think I am the most qualified candidate for this position because I have served as a junior class senator, and although I have learned a lot through that experience, I also have a strong passion for the role. Again, like I said, instead of hoping that the next internal vice president takes on my ideas, not seeing them come into fruition, I wanted to take that leadership role, and I wanted to see my ideas come into life and actually make an impact in student government, in the student body, and just in Waco's community in general. Going off of that, their experience can only get you so far. You really have to have a passion, and you have to be an active person in the role. And because it was my first year serving in student government this year, I was much more susceptible in learning what the holes and the gaps were. And because I think that I'm more connected with the student body, just because I've been involved in so many different things, and because I get to see so many Baylor students coming in, so many prospective Baylor students coming in with different perspectives of what they want, I can serve them. I know kind of what people are looking for in the future. And also, I'm just kind of circling back to my platform. Our Baylor community is amazing. It really is. The love that you feel here, it is like no other. And I want to do that as my role. I want to really exemplify our community. As internal vice president, there's going to be, in my platform, there's two different kind of branches, one being the community of Senate and the community of the student body. And there are two different separate entities, but what I would really love to do is merge them together. And I'm hopeful, and I know when I become IVP, I will be able to kind of solidify those plans and see them come into fruition.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Tatum, for your question. I would say what makes me the best candidate for internal vice president is twofold. I would say my experience and my passion. So kind of similar to what Oxa said, but just going off of that, like I am the most experienced person for the job. I have had the opportunity to serve as a sophomore and a junior senator. And with that, I have learned such valuable skills this year serving on Senate Executive Council as the Academic Affairs Committee Chair. And everything I've learned from that is so valuable in stepping into higher leadership. I think that is a great stepping stone for going from being a senator to serving on the Senate Executive Council to leading the Senate. And also with that, through being the Academic Affairs Committee Chair, I've had awesome opportunities to extend relationships. One of my committee's big roles this year that I implemented was being liaisons with different student organizations. So we have started building connections with different organizations and getting the feedback from student organizations that we didn't feel were represented enough on our campus. I've also met with faculty senators. I'm actually presenting at Faculty Senate next week, so I'm very excited about that, but seeing that relationship come to life. I've had frequent meetings with Dr. Chad Eggleston in the Vice Provost office and have had these meetings that have helped me build my network that would just help me serve better as the IVP because I would have connections to go to as the internal vice president when questions would arise, and also directing senators there. Those relationships are established, so there wouldn't be as much starting from scratch. And then I think also with experience, I have been really involved in both the Baylor and Waco community. I've held leadership in over 6 organizations, have been involved in over 8, and I'm also involved in research with the health communication, with the communication department of Waco Family Medicine. And I also am involved in community service. I do an internship in the Waco community. And so my experience holistically has just helped prepare me to be the best candidate for internal vice president. And then also, more than I'm just passionate about student government, I'm passionate about Baylor, and overall I'm passionate about the legislative body in general. I think something I touched on was how the Lord is like planted in my heart a desire to serve in public policy and on Capitol Hill. And I think that passion for that as a broader spectrum just would be so evident as the internal vice president, because that is such a major part. And then also being passionate about student government and everything it's done in my life and what I've seen, how I've seen it move in others, I think is so important and so valuable as the internal vice president. And so I would say my passion and experience. And then lastly, like my platform, Move with Mackenzie. I want to see those changes implemented. I want to see a better Senate facilitated. We have an awesome Senate right now. I've done it twice. I've loved every second of it. And I've gotten to author awesome legislation. I've gotten to meet with great organizations and people and staff and faculty and just be involved with so many different aspects of campus that I would love to have the support from the Laureate and move with Mackenzie.
Thank you. Do either of you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you so much, Tatum and Oxa, for this conversation. It has been awesome to hear Oxa's perspectives and just engage in the civil discourse. I would love for everyone to follow my Instagram, mackenzie.for.ivp, to hear more about my platform, my passion, my experience, and why I'd be the best candidate for internal vice president. But thank you.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tatum. We really appreciate your time as well. Again, the same comes for me. If you want to learn more about my platform, follow me on Instagram. And I really hope that this is a really fruitful time for me and Mackenzie. And I'm just praying that God allows the best candidate to get the position. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone again. This was the IVP debate hosted by the Baylor Laureate. Voting info should be in the video description, and links to candidate information will also be included. This should be posted online for you guys. You can see it, and we're putting together a thumbnail. So I think Mackenzie, I got your headshot. Oxa, you send me, email Rachel and I a headshot. I don't know if I missed it in my email or not, but.
I texted it to Rachel. Should be in there.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
But I can email it too.
No worries. That should work. I was just double checking. Okay. Thank you guys so much again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tatum. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.